Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hi, guys. Battle of Dunbar, 1296, First War of Scottish Independence, Part 1. Let's do it. William Wallace, or this is after Wallace. Much after. Right? Wasn't William Wallace in the... William Wallace. Look, Braveheart is an amazing movie. Stop it. Stop. I didn't say it was a very accurate or historical movie. I'm just saying, if you picture Braveheart as a... Not trying to describe events, but just kind of... I'm making up excuse. I think it just the power... It's a powerful movie, all right? I feel like a lot of people just left because I said that. Maybe not. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. Deal with it. Jeez, not a good start. I love you guys. Original link to the video, top of the description, right below that link to the Discord. Click on it, send you right over there. We'd love to have you. Preemptive like. Battle of Dunbar, 1296, First War of Scottish Independence, Part Uno. I'm ready to learn. If you're not, listen to me. Listen, look. Phone's away. Oh no, I need to charge my phone. Phone's away. I'd fake through it because I have to charge it. And if you're not ready to learn, you're in the wrong class, my friend. This is AP Advanced British Scottish History 101. That didn't make sense.
Alexander III, King of Scots, is dead. Unfortunately,
Wait.
his death has...
Okay, sorry, start.
Alexander III, King of Scots, is dead. Unfortunately, his death has left the ancient Canmore line hanging by a fragile thread. Alexander, in addition to losing his wife in 1275, lost all his children in the 1280s, before tragically dying himself en route to visiting his new young wife, Yolande of Drew, at Kinghorn, in hopes of siring a new heir. The continuance of the Canmore line now hinged on a small girl, the only daughter of Alexander's daughter, Margaret. Margaret had married the King of Norway in 1281, and it was now this 3-year-old girl who claimed the throne of Scotland.
3?
Initially, this state of affairs suited Edward Longshanks, the powerful King of England. Margaret would wed...
Wait, what? Wait, what? Huh? Why was I so certain? Did Braveheart lie to me about that too? Plot. In 1280. Jesus, why did I think it was in the 1100s? And that's very bright. Okay, I don't know why I was pretty certain that Edward II, and you guys probably told me this in comments. I don't know why. I thought Edward II was Longshanks, and I thought Braveheart, or I thought this stuff, Edward Longshanks, William Wallace, took place in the 1100s. I don't know why I was so certain of that. It's not good. Sorry. Okay.
Edward's own Longshanks, the powerful King of England. Margaret
What
would
news,
wed
Benor?
Edward's own heir and namesake. The match was even formalised at a summit attended by the Scottish Guardians, as well as Edward, his advisors, and representatives from the Norwegian court on November 6, 1289. The agreement was premised on the assurance that the Scottish realm would remain free in itself, but if Longshanks ultimately hoped for an eventual unification of the realms in the person of his son's heir with the Maid, then this hope was dashed with the demise of young Margaret herself en route to Scotland in September of 1290. Edward, however, remained entrenched in the process of selecting a suitable king from the various claimants. Ultimately, Edward achieved what he wanted from the whole affair, requiring all prospective candidates to swear homage to him as caretaker of the realm. In turn, Edward chose John Balliol as king.
Sorry, I just laughed at. He's like, "Why are we in England? Swear allegiance to me."
Caretaker of the realm. In turn, Edward chose John Balliol as king over the other main contender, Robert Bruce.
Robert the Bruce.
This video is sponsored by Kamakoto Knives. Kamakoto is crafted out of Japanese steel using...
Guys, make sure, if anything interests you, just make sure to use their link, all right? We're watching their videos.
Techniques that have been honed and perfected by generations of blacksmiths.
Least we can do.
They build on the legacy of over 800 years of Japanese expertise, dating back to the Edo period, to make these meticulously handcrafted knives. Kamakoto knives have a single bevel edge. They are wickedly sharp and perfect for slicing super thin meats. Each blade goes through a rigorous 19-step process that takes several years from start to finish to complete, and the end product are knives that are rated among the top in the world. Each knife is individually inspected. The knives are used by Michelin star chefs all over the world. Kamakoto provide a lifetime guarantee, so they really stand behind their products. Also, each knife comes in a beautiful heavy-duty ashwood box, ensuring that the knife is stored safely. And with Christmas on the horizon, the elegant wooden box also makes Kamakoto a great gift. If you're looking for a world-class knife for yourself or as a holiday gift, Kamakoto is running a massive sale for my viewers. By purchasing, not only will you be supporting History Marsh videos, but you'll also get an extra $50 off by entering the code HistoryMarsh at checkout. Thanks again to Kamakoto for sponsoring our video. John Balliol was enthroned at Scone Abbey on 30th of November 1292, the feast of St. Andrew, Scotland's patron saint and protector. King Edward himself pointedly did not attend the ceremony. As arbiter and kingmaker, Edward by demonstration was John's feudal overlord. In short, the King of Scots attended the coronation of English monarchs, but not vice versa. Most importantly for Edward, Balliol had unambiguously sworn fealty to him before leaving for Scone.
God, I gotta pay attention. I want to make this an enjoyable time for you, okay? I really do. And that means sometimes not pausing. But if I don't learn, what is the point? Okay, so I'm sorry, just sometimes I gotta rewind.
King Edward himself pointedly did not attend the ceremony. As arbiter and kingmaker, Edward by demonstration was John's feudal overlord. In short, the King of Scots attended the coronation of English monarchs, but not vice versa. Most importantly for Edward, Balliol had unambiguously sworn fealty to him before leaving for Scone, and at Newcastle on December 26, 1292, the new King of Scots knelt before the King of England as his sworn man. Longshanks unashamedly proceeded as he had begun, and took every opportunity to humiliate and demonstrate his superior lordship over both the new king and his subjects, reversing legal rulings of the Guardians made during the interregnum, and even summoning King John himself in October of 1293 to appear before the English Parliament to answer the appeal of a Scottish lord. Such humiliations were too much, even for the meek John Balliol, and specifically his leading lords. Indeed, his weakness as king could also be bent to the will of others other than Longshanks. Ironically, Edward himself, as Duke of Gascony, had been summoned by his own feudal lord, King Philip of France, to answer for English attacks on French seamen. Following his refusal, Philip pounced, seizing Edward's lands in May of 1294. Further trouble erupted in Wales in September. Edward had crushed this revolt by May of 1295, but soon discovered that opposition was brewing in Scotland too. By this time, the Scots had elected a council to govern in Balliol's name, and made common cause with Edward's enemy by concluding an alliance with France in October of the same year. Unfortunately for the defiant,
The Council of 12 was formed in July, comprising 4 bishops, 4 barons, and 4 earls, effectively recreating the Guardian's government.
in October of the same year. Unfortunately for the defiant Scots,
Known as the Old Alliance, this friendship was formalized on October 23rd, 1295.
King Edward focused his wrath on them, ordering a general muster at Newcastle to assemble by the 1st of March, 1296. The Scots Council issued its own call to arms, ordering all free men to assemble at Cadonlee, just north of Selkirk. Edward advanced on Wark, occupying the castle on the River Tweed, before halting during the Holy Week. In late March, however, the Scots poured over the border into England, ravaging villages on their approach to Carlisle. The Scots, however, were repelled by the defenders led by Bruce, the Lord of Annandale, and the Earl of Carrick. Failing to take Carlisle, the Earl of Buchan turned his forces to cutting a path of destruction through Northumberland, burning villages and churches, though this failed to draw the wrath of Edward away from his eastern march into Scottish lands. Edward's anger was directed towards the lucrative town of Berwick on the Tweed. The attack had begun from the sea, but the 4 leading ships ran aground and were set upon by the furious Scots, the crews cut to pieces, and their vessels fired. This initial...
Why not take the vessel? Maybe they didn't have like the expertise to really use it effectively, and so better to just destroy it. Or it was accident?
success inflamed the confidence of the defenders to the degree of defying Edward in person when he arrived. Berwick had been one of the settlements demanded by Longshanks the previous year, and repeating his order in person was met with the jeers of his enemies, with an English source even writing that one particular brazen defender bared his behind in the presence of Edward. Given such defiance, it behind in the presence of Edward.
I blow my nose at you, so-called Edward King. I fought in your general direction.
Given such defiance, it may be surprising to learn that Berwick itself was defended only by a feeble wooden palisade. Edward thus led his armored knights in an assault, brushing aside the rotted fortifications and driving the Scots into the narrow streets. In contrast to the usual framing of this event as a wicked act of brutality, the Sack of Berwick actually saw Edward merely adhering to the normal code of war when encountering a defiant town. A town or settlement that refused to surrender left itself open to sacking. Chivalric practice concerning the garrison was also within the realms of normality, as Edward offered life and limb to the 200-strong garrison in the town's castle under the command of William, the Lord of Douglas, which was accepted in exchange for Douglas's own surrender. Edward remained in the charred ruins of Berwick for around a month, improving its defenses with a huge ditch some 80 feet wide by 40 feet deep. It was here that he received a firm message of defiance.
I always had this question, okay? From Alexander the Great to World War One. No, not World War One. You have... Not World War One. Okay. From Alexander the Great to Napoleonic Wars, okay? Of how did they... Or maybe not even... Just how did they... Like he said, how big?
From by 40 feet, proving its defenses with a huge ditch some 80 feet wide by 40 feet deep.
80 feet wide, and I'm guessing it wasn't 40 feet deep. I'm sure it was 40 feet deep at its deepest. But did they have like iron shovels? Like, Did they use animals to kind of dredge it or to kind of like push it? Like, how did they create those things? Just sheer manpower?
It was here that he received a firm message of defiance from the King of Scots, with John Balliol formally renouncing his homage and fealty, extorted by Edward's violent pressure. Dunbar Castle was the next English target. On paper, the castle was already in English hands, as the castle's lord, Patrick.
Fun fact, Patrick, the Earl of March, was also a competitor for Scotland's crown, his claim rooted in an illegitimate connection to William the Lion. Dearest wife, hold the castle for me, an hour-long paramount. King Edward's hugs and kisses. Patrick, Earl of March.
The castle was already in English hands, as the castle's lord, Patrick, the Earl of March, had sworn fealty to and was loyal to King Edward, even being present with him at Berwick. Despite this, however, it appears that March's wife, the current custodian of Dunbar, switched sides and retained the stronghold for Balliol. Unfortunately, the men of Dunbar quickly realized that though they may be able to resist a siege, they could not do so for long. Edward had sent John de Warenne, Earl of Surrey, north to capture it with a few thousand men. Dunbar's garrison asked to send word to Balliol to gauge the correct terms of surrender. The King of Scots was encamped some 10 miles to the west at Haddington and, instead of meekly offering surrender terms, resolved to fight, sending word back to Dunbar to resist. King John sent a force to repel Surrey's army under the command of John Comyn. It's likely that the numbers involved were quite small. The English force
To Dunbar, hold firm, help is on the way. King John, P.S. Don't worry, it's not me. Okay. So he's self-aware?
It's likely that the numbers involved were quite small. The English force under the Earl of Surrey was likely larger, but suffered the disadvantage of being trapped between the two Scottish forces within Dunbar.
This taunt that the English had tails was common to both their Scottish and French enemies. The English had tails. Are you like calling them animals or something?
Itself advantage of being trapped between the two Scottish forces within Dunbar itself and on the hill overlooking them. The Scots had arrived to combat Surrey's besieging army on the morning of the 27th of April, and they formed up on the high ground of Spottismuir near Doon Hill. Surprisingly unconcerned with the Scots' decent defensive position, Surrey mirrored the Scottish split by leaving his infantry to maintain the siege of the castle, while he attacked common Scots on the hill with his own cavalry. Approaching the Scottish position, it seemed to Comyn that the English were relatively few, possibly even retreating, given that their crossing of the Spot Burn broke up their lines and its steep gradient obscured their true numbers. In addition, Comyn may have been confident of a successful charge, given the impetus of charging downhill. Therefore, Comyn charged. The charge, though, quickly devolved into a disorganized and piecemeal attack. The Scots suffered from a similar effect, not realizing the steepness of the gully below them until they were almost on top of it. This hesitance blunted any chance of an effective charge, and when the English, quickly regaining their composure after fording the Spot Burn, countercharged, the Scots broke. The casualties appear to have been minimal, though the Scots were routed. A single Scottish knight, Sir Patrick Graham, was killed. Perhaps more significantly,
Man, that was a crap show right there.
many men were captured, including the Earls of Atholl, Menteith, and Ross, with their commander John Comyn also among their number.
Like I just pictured like, all right, boys, they're outnumbered. Let's do it. Ran down the hill, and then the English are like, oh no. But then they just see like some like stumbling and being like, okay, they're kind of messing themselves up right now, and then just going in. As well as the noble captives, most sources agree at least hundreds of Scottish foot soldiers were killed, though the thousands figure is debatable, as not all of Balliol's army may have been engaged.
numbers. All told, as many as 100 knights were taken by Surrey, though some managed to escape to Ettrick Forest. The victory was completed when Longshanks himself arrived the next day with the main English army. Dunbar Castle promptly surrendered, as did the castles of Stirling and Roxburgh, without resistance. Later too, Edinburgh fell after just a few days, completing the total Scottish defeat. For John de Warenne, Earl of Surrey, the victory must have been sweet, having helped to secure a key castle for his king and the capture of over 100 high-status Scots. Dunbar appeared to be the seal on King Edward's conquest of Scotland, with control of south and central Scotland quickly following. Edward celebrated the feast of St. John the Baptist in Perth, significantly receiving word from his rival king of the latter's submission. On the 10th of July, the ill-starred Balliol was brought before King Edward himself at Montrose and literally stripped of his authority as king. The royal blazon tore from his tabard, earning his nickname Tomb Tabard. John Balliol was then unceremoniously carted off to the Tower, while Edward continued his victories.
A 16th century depiction of Balliol. I'm reading them, but I really only... I can't stop for everyone. 16th century depiction of Balliol's unkinging, Tomb Tabard, literally means empty surcoat. I thought it was like T-O-M-B tabard, and I just figured it meant like dead coat, or I don't know.
Ceremoniously carted off to the Tower, while Edward continued his victory parade. Upon his return south via Perth, the English king had the sacred stone of destiny removed from Scone Abbey and transferred south, as well as the royal regalia held in Edinburgh. The message
only returned in 1996.
As well as the royal regalia held in Edinburgh. The message was clear. Edward had not only unkinged Balliol, but had effectively unkingdomed Scotland. Now the land of the Scots would be little more than a dependent part of Edward's own kingdom. Edward hammered home this intent by holding a parliament within the husk of Berwick on August the 28th. Here he required all Scottish landowners to swear fealty not to a king of Scots, but to him, the King of England. Edward occupied Berwick for a further 3 weeks before leaving his new province in the care of his champion at Dunbar, whom he made viceroy. By September of 1296, Edward Longshanks must have felt assured of his iron grip over his latest conquest. So much so that he apparently quipped as he handed over the seal of Scotland to Surrey that a man does good business when he rids himself of a turd. In truth, however, not all resistance was crushed, as even then the embers of rebellion were smouldering in the heart of a young patriot by the name of William Wallace.
There he is!
If you stayed around this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave
Cliffhanger. Should I just do it? Should we just do it? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not, as much as I kind of want to. No. No. It will be for another time, okay? Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Hope you learned something or can teach me something in the comments. Remember, join the Discord if you'd like. And I hope you're all doing well. I really do. If you're not, don't worry. You'll be good soon. Emotions are fickle, my friend. See you guys next time. Bye.